This is all that survived.
Beskar, I want you to take a look at something. My chain code has been encoded in this armor for 25 years. You see, this is me, Boba Fett. This is my father, Jango Fett.
Your father was a foundling.
Yes. He even fought in the Mandalorian Civil Wars.
Then that armor belongs to you.
I appreciate its return.
Then our deal is complete.
Not quite.
How so?
We agreed, in exchange for the return of my armor, we will ensure the safety of the child.
The child's gone.
Until he is returned to you safely, we are in your debt.
Greetings, Bucketheads. Mavar Tigar. Welcome to the 20th action-packed episode of Mando Vision. Nargai Tom. And thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. This is the third volume of what we're calling Bantha Tracks, which is sort of our episodes between episodic breakdowns of The Mandalorian. And, I'll be honest, the intention was to kind of do these a bit more sporadically. But these are almost after action reports where more information has become available, and I want to share with my new friends in this podcast audience, and that's kind of what we're doing here today because I think we gave a really darn good breakdown on Friday, but the internet came to our aid with something, and we're going to talk about that. But let's kind of get the whole shebang out of the way. All right. Remember, the best way to reach out to this podcast is via social media. We are at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share the show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert. And if possible or so inclined, please give us those sweet 5-star reviews. They help small independent podcasts like us stand out and not get lost in the shuffle. Please head over to our parent website, 3bzine.com, where you can find all the shows of the 3bzine podcast network, Beer Night in San Diego, the Tomcast Podcast, and this excellent podcast you're listening to right now, Mando Vision. There's also a link to our Store Envy site where you can find great merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, all that winter materials that you need to stay warm. Bundle up with a shirt that has my face on it. If that doesn't make you happy at Christmas time, I don't know what will. Remember, death sticks, unfortunately, are still out of stock and highly illegal to trade in. So be careful if you try to order those. Now it's officially time to strap on your buckets. Let's go. All right, so I think we're all still kind of basking in the glow of episode 14, which was the tragedy. This is specifically because of its reintroduction of Boba Fett to the canon, but also its reintroduction and reincorporation of some of the old expanded universe lore pertaining to both Boba and to his father Jango Fett. A lot of really great stuff here. We talked a lot about specific elements in that episode breakdown that we did on Friday after the airing, and we will cover some of the same ground again. Just so you know, I'm going to kind of try and cover everything from start to finish. But we'll start with the new, with what happened over the weekend after the episode had aired already, and like I said earlier, the internet came to the rescue here. There is a segment of the fan base that is just so gifted and so talented in ways that I could only wish that I were. And one of those gifts, specifically the gift that I'm referring to in this one, is the patience and the ability to pause the episode, do a screen grab of Boba Fett's chain code that he's showing to Din Djarin, and then translate said chain code, the Orabesh language, translated for all to revel in the glory of. And so that's exactly what the internet did. These wonderful people with the patience and the skills and the time translated what was on the screen cap, on the screen grab, the Orabesh, and something was detected, something was uncovered, and it's a bit of I don't know, significant lore for Jango Fett. Remember, I just played the audio scene, so you just heard it, where Boba's sort of indicating the chain of ownership for the armor, his armor, and how it was Jango's and then it was his, and so on and so forth. There is a name that has been uncovered in that Orabesh text. It is Mentor Jaste. Well, what does that mean? Mentor Jaste. Well, it can only really mean one thing: a figure that was pivotal in Jango's backstory, depicted in the comic books specifically. Back when Dark Horse still had the comic book license. We're talking about a character named Jaster Miril. He is a mentor figure to Jango. Miril was a rightful heir to the Mandalorian throne, and he adopted and raised Jango after Death Watch had killed Jango's parents. This is from a comic book series that you can pick up, that you can still find. I don't know if I don't know where you're listening, and if the pandemic has affected comic book stores in your area. So maybe getting to the comic book store right now isn't the easiest thing to do. But you can head on over to Amazon, or you can go to Comixology. They're both basically the same place, and you can find the 4-issue miniseries Open Season, and it depicts a lot of Jango's background. It gives us a lot of background information on Jango Fett. Now, big asterisks on this, okay? Those stories are not canon anymore. That is part of what is referred to as Star Wars Legends now. But the reintroduction of Jaster Miril is interesting and fascinating because it again, we point back to that old expanded universe canon that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are slowly weaving into their story. That's slowly being brought back in to the current canon, this reintroduction. And, we get a little bit more information from Boba about this. Boba talks about Jango fighting in the Mandalorian Civil War. Well, that's in this book. The Mandalorian Civil War, they are a team. Jaster and Jango fighting in the Mandalorian Civil War. And again, we don't know if Jaster Miril will be a prominent figure in some sort of new Jango history. If he would have the same sort of status within Mandalorian society as one of the heirs to the title of Mandalore, or if it's just kind of a coincidence and it's just going to be sort of a random Mandalorian character that had a hand in the upbringing of Jango Fett, which would then sort of have a hand in the upbringing of Boba Fett as well, because Jango, as Boba's father, would probably pass on what he knew. Now, we talked a little bit about the interesting elements that this all implies. That Jango, and by extension Boba Fett, are Mandalorians. And whether you want to say true Mandalorians or not, that's up to you. But the revelation is that Jango was a foundling, and that jives with Open Seasons. He's sort of found and raised by Jaster Miril after the Death Watch kills his family. That's basically the definition of a family. That it mirrors the origin we saw for Din Djarin. It just so happened that Din's family was killed by battle droids in the Clone Wars, in those sweet Clone Wars. So a lot of, again, really interesting things being brought about. A lot of elements here coming into play that I think are going to make for some really great storytelling opportunities. And the question remains: how much will they dive into the Jango's past, Jango's history? Will it be on the Mandalorian series, or will it be in another form of media? Will it be in a novel, or in a comic book, or maybe a new animated series? The possibilities are endless, and it seems to me that Disney is finally realizing that Star Wars on Disney Plus is kind of the way to go. Because I don't know if you've heard much on the internet about every character ever appearing on the show getting a spinoff. So there seems to be some sort of interest, at least on the part of Disney, to make more Star Wars on Disney Plus, which to me is not a bad thing. I think Star Wars benefits dramatically from a more long-form storytelling narrative, where instead of having to try and get something done in 2.5 hours, you have 8 episodes to play with, roughly 8 hours to play with. I know the Mandalorian is they're not all an hour long, but you know what I'm saying. This also forces us to once again re-examine the statement made by Almec in the Clone Wars cartoon in season 2, when Obi-Wan Kenobi arrives on Mandalore, a Mandalore that, at the time, for a fan like myself who had read all these novels and books that were then promptly shown to the trash can, that Almec completely dismisses Jango Fett as just a thief, someone who stole Mandalorian armor and now wears it. And the implication, and wears it to have a reputation that is unearned. We have this basically has exposed Almec as a liar, and as we talked about a little bit about on Friday, that's again more just fascinating, rich material for a writer to dive into if we want to explore more about Jango and more about Boba, and not only their connections to each other, but their connections to Mandalorian society as a whole. If Jango is a foundling, which is what we have now been told, what was the conflict that caused him to leave Mandalorian society? And was Almec directly involved in that? Is there some sort of conspiracy? Did Jango perhaps uncover the fact that Death Watch was still alive and active and making plans against Mandalore and the new peaceful government of the Mandalorians who won the Mandalorian Civil War? It's also interesting to consider, again, they said Jango fought in the Mandalorian Civil Wars. What side did he fight on? Aren't you curious about that? Was he on the losing side and that's why he left Mandalorian society? Was he in a division with Almec and they had a falling out, or were they just rivals? Were they against each other? It would seem like Almec would be on the side of the new Mandalorians, the peaceful Mandalorians. But there must be some connection between the two, some sort of a secret history that would be why Almec is so dismissive of Jango and just writes him off as a nobody who stole armor and just does not represent Mandalorian society in the least. So again, I love this soil. This is just rich, fertile soil for someone with a strong narrative capabilities. And I think we've seen that on this show. You can the knock can be made about the Mandalorian, and it has been made that every episode is sort of a variation on a similar theme. Mando has to go somewhere. Mando has to do something. He has to help someone in order to get what he's trying to get done. It's it's very RPG side quest stuff. I can understand that knock, but at this point, it's kind of the formula. But as the show continues to grow and it continues to develop, and we continue to dive into that mythology, that will change. I honestly suspect that will change. But the show's never going to stray too far from its roots because it knows what it is. It is a Western. It is the lone gunslinger on the frontier. And even as the galaxy expands in front of our characters, in front of Din Djarin and little Grogu, I think the show's still going to be that at its heart. It's still going to be that lone gunfighter on the frontier. At least it should always kind of have that at its core. That's just so essential to why the show's so, to me, so successful, so rewarding, and so approachable to everyone who's not like a hardcore Star Wars fan. I love that this show talks to everybody on every level of their Star Wars fandom. And I think I mentioned it on Friday too. I almost felt like this was the episode that rewarded fans who have kind of been there since the beginning and then stuck with the series through the dark times, which was the late 80s and early 90s when there was no new Star Wars. Because remember, I mean, we had no new material until the comic book started and until the novelizations happened. And we spun a lot of stories between fans when I would stand around the comic book store on Wednesday nights after the new releases had come out. And we would all talk about Boba Fett and how cool he is, or how cool he must be to rock that armor, to be so awesome and mysterious, having only seen glimpses of him in the movies. Like, he's pretty kick-ass in Empire, but he gets dispatched pretty easily in Return of the Jedi. But still, we bought into the whole mystique, the whole aura that this guy had, and we were rewarded deeply for that. And I appreciate that, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. It was great to see him be the awesome warrior that we have always sort of envisioned him to be. And as I think as I think I mentioned before, I heard from a lot of other longtime Star Wars fans who read the same books I did, who read the same comics I did, and we were all extremely satisfied. Uh, yes, you could critique it a little bit in the sense that his I guess the criticism that I've heard most, and it's not even a criticism. It's a criticism that has some merit. Don't get me wrong. But I think you have to play with it a little bit. A lot of people seem to. I don't even know if a lot of people's right. A few people have mentioned that they didn't think Boba Fett was the type of character who was going to stick around and help Din Djarin. Once he got his armor back, that was the transaction. That was the deal. It's complete, and now Boba Fett's going to walk away because that's also kind of been a part of the lore of the mystique that we've built around Boba Fett is that he's a bit of a cold, calculating individual, and I don't think that's been forgotten by any means just because he's choosing to help Din Djarin. I think there may actually be a lot more to it. I think there is more subtext to why he's deciding to help Din rescue Grogu from the Empire, and I think a lot of it has to do with the trauma that that Boba still feels for losing his father when he was so young, and he sees a father who's now lost his son, his adopted son in Grogu, and I sort of suspect that Boba wants to help Din find his son because, again, that is what Episode 2 is for those two characters. It is a father-son relationship, and that is the impetus that drives Jango and Boba in those early stories. Like when you go back and read, if you go back and read Open Season, there's a plot and a B plot, and the A plot is Jango and Boba as a child, and you see in Clone Wars how attached Boba is to Jango, how strong their bond is, and so I think now in the Mandalorian in Chapter 14, with Din in dire straits, the Razor Crest blown to smithereens, no way to get around, no help to get, and the fact that the revelation, at least to Boba, that the Empire is back, he sees an opportunity to help someone in a position that he was once in, just on the other side of it. And I think that's the real reason why he chooses to help Din Djarin. And he sort of makes it sound like, no, this was a deal all along. Like, we agreed to help protect the child. He could have easily, like Din says, he could have walked away. The transaction was complete. The child is gone. That could be the end of it. I think Boba phrases it in a way so that it makes sense to Din why he would stay. Because, again, they're strangers. Yes, they just fought the Empire together, but they don't know each other. They seem to share the bond of Mandalore now, of a Mandalorian heritage. Jango is a foundling. Din Djarin is a foundling. There are sort of the ties that bind between them with that. But I go back to the father-son metaphor here, and I think that is the ultimate reason why Boba chooses to stay and help Din Djarin. And it seemed like it was sort of against. It wasn't. It wasn't Ming-Na Wen's first choice to stick around and help Din Djarin. Fennec Shand seemed more than ready to kind of walk away from the whole thing and just leave Din on Tython and call it a day. But maybe I read that wrong. I don't know. Fennec Shand's a pretty badass character. I'm again really glad that she is back on the series, and it looks like we have them for at least the next episode, maybe the next 2 episodes, which I again really excited about. A lot of stuff moving forward that's really great. What else do I have for y'all about this? Let me kind of go back through some of my notes here. I guess we should illuminate the Mandalorian Civil War a little bit, just for anyone. If you haven't watched Clone Wars, you may not understand. And let's not get it twisted. There's been a lot of conflict on the Mandalorian homeworld. It was never a world of peace. There's always been sort of a power struggle between clans, between factions, and things of that nature. It was a war-torn planet. Mandalore was a war-torn planet for a long time. And then, again, prior to the Clone Wars, prior to Episode 1 even taking place, there is a Mandalorian Civil War between the new Mandalorians, who are representatives of a peace movement, and they are going up against the martial traditionalists, the sort of the Mandalorians that we have mostly been exposed to on this show. You know, the way of the warrior sort of mentality. But the new Mandalorians they want change. They want to reinvest in the planet, reinvest in themselves as a people, as a culture, as a society, which they can't do because there have been so many conflicts on the planet. Internal, external situations with enemies. The surface of Mandalore is barren when we first see it, and when we go there in season 2 of the Clone Wars, and that's from all these conflicts that have happened on the planet. So this new Mandalorian government wins the Civil War. This peaceful Mandalore comes to rise in the time of the prequels. We've talked about Duchess Satine. She's a character with a strong emotional connection to Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. And again, that's sort of where we find ourselves in the Clone Wars. But you have to know that's the Civil War that they were referring to. The new Mandalorians, the peaceful Mandalorians, versus the old way Mandalorians, the more of the this is the way type of Mandalorians. And a lot happens during the events of the Clone Wars, and I would tell you more about that. But I think we should. This is probably the best time to make it official that starting in January 2021, we will go back and we will begin re-exploring the Clone Wars. I think I mentioned that in the last episode, so maybe that's not official. Maybe I'm just repeating myself again, but it is official. We are officially going to do it. Several people have been requesting it, and we are going to go and do it. We will start with the Clone Wars movie, and we will start working our way through the episodes. And I think we'll get a good chunk of it covered before season 3 of The Mandalorian comes back. Hopefully once again in the fall of 2021. So good stuff there. And one of the things we'll talk about during that is the relationship between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Duchess Satine, because I personally find it fascinating for the way in which it mirrors Anakin and Padme, except Obi-Wan chose the path of the Jedi and stayed on the path of the Jedi and not to pursue his emotions and like that. But we'll talk about that. This is Mando Vision. We're talking about the Mandalorian right now, people. Don't worry. So I think that's the bulk of what we wanted to talk about, what we wanted to share today. You know, that Mandalorian Civil War is potentially vital. The things that we're going to the things that might get explored further on down the road with the show. It depends if we go more into Boba and Jango's history and backstory, their connection to Mandalore, their connection to other Mandalorians, why they are on the outs with Mandalorian society. Because honestly, I mean, we can infer from this episode that Boba seems to not have any sort of affinity for Mandalorians, and that's because he probably hasn't been around that many of them. I mean, if you've watched Clone Wars, you've seen the episodes where he is on the path to becoming a bounty hunter, and it has very little to do with getting in touch with his people, and that's because potentially because Jango was completely ostracized and cut out from that society, from that culture, for reasons that we don't fully understand yet. But perhaps Almec is the man who would be able to inform us of more things, though I kind of think he's dead. Again, another note that I'll have to re-explore as we watch Star Wars: The Clone Wars beginning next year. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a lot of fun to kind of retouch on some of these, and yeah, it's going to be fun. I think y'all will really, really enjoy it. I know some of those episodes in season 1 are a little long in the tooth, but that just means it's going to be a short episode, because it's like, how many times can I tell you about a battle droid getting killed? Yeah, that's just how that works in season 1 of the Clone Wars. And season 1 of the Clone Wars also is a lot of big 2-part episodes that, you know, really should just be a 1-part episode. But they figure that out by season 2. Season 2 of the show gets really, really good. So that's the exciting part about that. I guess, yeah, I think we've kind of gotten everything we had to say about Boba and Jango. How did you all feel about Boba Fett in this episode? how did you all feel about the revelations with Jango Fett? I'm really curious. Did I'm also a little curious. Like this is I'm not trying to be mean to Tamara Morrison, because trust me, I'm so glad he was back. But when he gets the suit on and you kind of see like he has like a little bit of a paunch, a little bit of a dad bod thing going on. Doesn't quite not quite the svelte fit that Timothy Oliphant was rocking in episode 1 this season. So just something interesting to kind of note. What do you all think? You're like, oh, Boba put on a few pounds. Maybe he had to eat his way out of the Sarlacc. I don't know. We haven't covered that yet. And it'll be interesting to see if we get that story about how he escaped the Sarlacc pit. It'll be a lot of fun. By the way, I'm also curious. Do y'all have any thoughts on one of the random elements of Boba Fett history, which is if you watch those scenes in Return of the Jedi, and they flash to Boba Fett, for some reason the images are reversed and his antenna's on the left side of his helmet as opposed to the right. Y'all, anyone know what's up with that? I've been trying to find information about it. It just seems to be like this weird anomaly. And it seems like one of those things that could have been fixed in a digital version, but I don't know if they have. So I actually will be watching Return of the Jedi on Disney Plus and seeing if that is something they have fixed or not. Because I just sort of caught this. It's been one of those things, like you notice it over the years. And since I'm doing a Boba Fett podcast, since I'm doing a Mandalorian podcast, I just thought I would talk about it with all you fine people that are listening to this show. One of those strange things that again, the movies have been tinkered with so often. You think they would have fixed this by now, but I on a recent television viewing, I think it was on TNT over the weekend. It was just like, no one had bothered to fix it yet. And it's like I don't understand. They can do McClunky until their eyes bleed, but they can't reverse the image of Boba Fett to correct the image of Boba Fett so he has his antenna on the right side. I don't know. Just kind of curious about it. If anyone has any thoughts, you know where to find me. Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. All right. Like I said, I think we've gotten everything out of here that we need to. If you want to check out the Jango Fett open seasons, again, I recommend going to either Amazon or Comixology. I mean, they're both owned by Amazon, so I mean, it is what it is. And getting digital copies, so you don't have to worry about going out. Yeah, we are still in the pandemic. And whether you are a masked person or not a masked person, I mean, let's be honest, we still need to all be safe. So get a digital copy. Stay at home, read on your phone, read on your iPad, or whatever tablet device you have available to you. This is the way to go with it. And it's a good story too. If I will actually be rereading it during the week, so I may have a few more comments about it once we get into Chapter 15's review on Friday. But in the meantime, just little nuggets here and there, coming back into the continuity, and again we talked a little bit about some of those things that could possibly come back from the Karen Traviss novels, because there is enough similarity in some of the timelines where Boba Fett could potentially become a member of the Mandalorian society, of Mandalorian civilization. Does Bo-Katan Kryze offer Boba a place with her? Does he walk away from being a bounty hunter? Does he feel the need to potentially reconnect with the people of his father at this point in his life? It's all interesting to think about. It's interesting stuff to explore. Will they go the same route that the novels did? Will Boba Fett find himself in a position where he could become the next Mandalore and be the one to unite the clans and unite the people? Will that be Din Djarin? Will Bo-Katan ever recover the Darksaber, or does she fall short of the goal? And one of our other characters has to step up to bring the clans together, to bring the Mandalorian people together. Again, it's just so much fun territory, and reconnecting and re-establishing some of this older expanded universe canon, expanded universe lore into this new series. It's fun. It's really fun. More fun than I thought it would be. When they first brought Thrawn into Rebels, and that was kind of the first time they started bringing back some of the old expanded universe canon. It became sort of like a fun jigsaw puzzle to kind of see, like, where's this gonna fit? where can we make this work the best? And what are the ramifications of bringing this element in? How does it affect the characters overall, and how does it change them? And what does it alter about our perceptions of them? And I think you're in a great spot to do that with Boba Fett, with this element that, yes, Jango, Mandalorian, raised by Jaster Meeril, and a fighter in the Mandalorian Civil War. What side? We don't know. What role did Jaster have in Mandalorian society? We don't know. Why did Almec lie to Obi-Wan Kenobi? Now remember, Kenobi did not detect any deception on Almec's part. So either Obi-Wan was distracted by the arrival of Duchess Satine at the next moment, or Almec is just completely convinced of what he's saying and believes every word that he uttered to Jedi Master Kenobi. So, again, things to get into, things to explore. You know, the connections to Death Watch. We will be talking much more about Death Watch in between seasons as we sort of explore this idea of the Children of the Watch. Will we find out more about the Children of the Watch going forward? Well, I don't know about that, but we're definitely going to explore Death Watch. We're going to re-examine Death Watch. We're going to look at Pre-Vizsla, the Clan Vizsla, and their role in the Mandalorian Civil War, and in the Mandalorian Civil Wars that followed the original Mandalorian Civil War. A lot to get to, but I love kind of now being in a position where we're getting these old elements, but they're kind of being presented in a new way. Like I said, just because that chain code said Jaster Meeril on it, doesn't mean it's all the Legends canon. It means that character existed in the universe, but we don't know to what extent, to what context. And again, that's sort of a fun thing. But now we just know the name is there, exists in new canon. But who was he? Was he the same character? Was he the guy who raised Jango? Sort of seems that way. At the very least, he was the one who taught Jango how to be a Mandalorian. Again, fun things to explore. I'm always going to be curious if it'll be something we do on this show, on The Mandalorian. Like, does The Mandalorian eventually shift focus from Grogu and the struggle against the Empire to zeroing in on Mandalore and bringing its people back together and taking their planet back from the Empire? Fun stuff. It's going to be a fun ride. And I'm so happy that I have this wonderful listening audience. Tell me your thoughts. Share your ideas. What do you think is going to happen? What do you want to see happen? Hit me up. Mando_Vision. Best way for us all to communicate. I've been really stoked on this season. I hope everyone else has as well. It's been a lot of fun. But I think we have to wrap it up there. Again, a nice short episode of Bantha tracks. But we covered the Mandalorian Civil War. We covered Jango and Jaster Meeril. We talked about Boba Fett's potential motives for why he's helping Din. Were you amongst the segment of the population that was like, why is Boba going to help him? Boba Fett's kind of a cold-hearted bastard. Should have just walked away? Maybe. But I think he recognizes, I think he sees a similarity between himself and Din Djarin. Again, Boba lost his father, and now Din has lost his adopted son. And perhaps he doesn't want to see... He wants to help, I guess, to make sure that they are reunited in the way that he wishes he could have been reunited with his father at some point. If Mace Windu hadn't cut his head off. Spoilers. Anyways, one last bit of news I think we should share at this point, because it'll be a show that we end up covering here as well. Diego Luna has confirmed that they are filming the Cassian Andor series. It has begun. He's over in London doing so. Wait, I think it's London. No, that doesn't make any sense. Why would it be there? No. I think that was a mistake on my part. But yeah, he has confirmed production has officially begun on Cassian Andor for Disney+. He's quoted as saying, "It's basically everything you have to know to understand Rogue One, the story of the character before. I can spoil the ending, I guess. It's nice to go into a story you already know the ending. Now you can take the nuances and the layers. I think it's fun to do something that isn't just about getting to the end. It's about delaying that." I'm excited for the Cassian Andor show. I am a big fan of Star Wars Rogue One. Perhaps you are as well. And I was a big fan of Diego Luna's Cassian Andor character, so I would love to see more of that. All right. Yeah, so there. That's it. If you have anything you want to say about Boba Fett, about Jango Fett, about Din Djarin, you know what to do. Thank you all so much for listening. This has been the third volume of Bantha Tracks for Mando Vision, a Star Wars podcast. Remember, Mando_Vision, Twitter and Instagram. We are part of the 3BZ network of podcasts. And hey, I'm going to be back extremely soon because guess what? Guess what? We got 2 more episodes left this season of The Mandalorian. And I can't even. The excitement is, my heart's racing just thinking about it. And we're going to have a blast. We're going to have a blast talking about it. So you all, again, thank you for listening. Stay safe. Take care of each other. Remember, this is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.